Welcome back to ECW 2006, and episode number 41 of CyberSlam begins with a pretty dismal video package looking back at footage from the end of last week's show. Kevin Furtick attacked CM Punk and chokeslammed him in the middle of the ring. The commentators put over the surprise nature of the attack, saying that Kevin Furtick is undefeated in ECW and he now seems to have set his sights on the ECW World Championship. CM Punk comes down to the ring, obviously pissed off and clearly still hurting from the attack he sustained at the hands of Kevin Furtick last week. Punk calls out Furtick to face him in the ring, asking him if he's so brave without the shock factor and his light tricks. Kevin Furtick instead comes to the top of the ramp, with Shelly Martinez joining him for their usual make-out session. Kevin Furtick looked menacingly down towards CM Punk, and eventually the champion was done waiting. Punk headed up the ramp and towards Kevin Furtick, but once he got there, he was taken out by Rhino, who had seemingly been lying in wait. Appearing from behind the curtain, Rhino caught Punk off guard, taking him down with a huge gore. Rhino then signalled for Furtick to finish the job, the big man hitting another chokeslam to CM Punk, this time to the steel ramp. He and Shelly Martinez standing over the ECW World Champion. It's a 62C rating, so considering Furtick and Martinez are in there, it is a good segment. CM Punk, of course, feuding with Rhino. That's the big money match, the match we're building to the next pay-per-view. But between them, we need a little go-between storyline for CM Punk, and Kevin Furtick being undefeated. There's no reason, realistically, in storyline why he wouldn't be interested in the ECW World Champion, and he has a good acclaim as anybody to a shot at that title, so that's where we're going. It might not be a popular decision because Kevin Furtick has been pretty terrible throughout this save, but it is where we're going, and it is what it is. Another look back at last week sees footage of Chuck Palumbo's ECW debut as he aided Little Guido in defeat over Tony Mamaluke. Seemingly the end of the FBI as we knew it, Guido appeared ready to move on and take the next step in his ECW career and was leaving Mamaluke behind, perhaps getting an upgrade in the form of Chuck Palumbo. This proved as he picked up a victory in 5 minutes and 23 over Elijah Burke, and Arriva Dirty picking up the win. Of course, Palumbo's presence assisting him on his way to victory. A good performance from Little Guido, a 50, a 36 from Elijah Burke. The hint at Little Guido's heel turn getting a poor reaction, as much of the crowd still remember his last turn. I haven't pulled the trigger on his heel turn. I should have done that last week, but I forgot to. Running down to the ring after the match, Tony Mamaluke is desperate to get his hands on Guido, but is stopped in his tracks by a big boot from Chuck Palumbo. Palumbo drags Tony to the ring, holding him in place as Guido slaps him across the face. Guido then signalled to Palumbo, who hit a full throttle, a black hole slam type move to Mamaluke, the two then standing over him in the middle of the ring. Paul Heyman is shown in the back, trying to talk to Rhino and asking him what the hell is going on, why does he keep getting involved, why can't he just follow orders. Heyman says that he's given him what he wants, he's in the main event tonight, yet he still tries to take out CM Punk. Rhino tells Heyman that he won't be satisfied until he, as television champion, is recognised as the #1 champion in ECW. Paul Heyman responds in a fired up manner, telling Rhino that that's on him, not ECW, to prove that, and he can start when he defends his championship in tonight's main event. Rhino nods his head and reminds Heyman that what happens to LA Parker tonight is on his head alone. The second match of the night sees Loki teaming back up with his fellow Hustle teammates, the Havana Pitbulls. He has been somewhat distant from the group recently, particularly in not getting involved in the rivalry between Xavier and the rest of the group, but they are a cohesive unit as they pick up a victory over Johnny Kashmere, Chris Cage and Ray Gordy. I really need to stop doing things like this. That was supposed to be Swinger. They are the previous entourage of Elijah Burke. I've put Johnny Kashmere in there. It doesn't really matter, but again, I shouldn't be making these mistakes. It's not a very good match. Low-key, the best performer. More important is the story after the match. Probably for the first time since November to Remember, the Hustle appearing on the same page with Loki and the Havana Pitbulls standing tall in the ring. The harmony, of course, not lasting long as Xavier comes down to the ring. Xavier confronts Loki, questioning him standing shoulder to shoulder with the man who took him out 3 weeks ago. Loki shrugging off Xavier and going to leave, only to be grabbed by the shoulder of Xavier. Key obviously doesn't appreciate this and gives a stern look of warning to Xavier, who refuses to back down. Loki nonetheless leaves the ring, and Xavier turns his attention to the two men who attacked him 3 weeks ago. things don't go very well for Xavier, who is laid out by the ECW World Tag Team Champions, Loki looking over his shoulder but not getting involved, as Xavier once again suffers the consequences of his explosive exit from the Hustle. Homicide and Siaki are then shown in the back, Homicide cutting a promo with the muscle of the Hustle by his side. Homicide says that Xavier has been hanging on to the Hustle for 10 months and the only thing he'd done was drag them down and slow their progression. Xavier made the worst decision of his life last month when he swung a fist at the man who was the only reason that anybody in this building, anybody watching this show knew his name. Homicide adds that they were once brothers fighting for the same cause, for the same revolution, but in 7 days, Xavier will be X'd out of Hustle's history. Homicide struggling when going off script. He always insists on going off script and not being scripted in his promos, but always seems to struggle, which is disappointing. But the storyline gaining heat, a testament to how bad that previous segment was, as we go into the main event. L.A. Parker's last appearance in ECW, and unsurprisingly he is defeated in just under 12 minutes by Rhino, a gore. The first defense that Rhino has made since winning the television championship at November to Remember, and it is an extremely good main event. Rhino with a brilliant 73, getting the crowd buzzing. Parker holding his own in the match, and it is a shame that he won't sign for longer than that initial 3 months, but it is what it is, and Rhino picks up a very good victory and one that will stand him in good stead going forward in his title reign and his rivalry with CM Punk. Speaking of which, that storyline continued after the match as Rhino stood tall. No doubt that he'd once again proved himself as one of the top stars in ECW. His focus, of course, on becoming the undisputed #1 in the company. CM Punk was in the way of this goal and he came out to confront Rhino after the match, the wounds of earlier in the night still fresh in his mind. Punk didn't make it to Rhino, however, or the ring at all, as he was attacked for a third time by Kevin Furtick, hit with a chokeslam to the ramp, the second one of the night. CM Punk's already injured back and ribs were no doubt in an even worse condition, Furtick standing over him yet again. Rhino looking down, very happy to see Punk struggling and in pain as the show went off the air. So it's a 61C rating. A little bit disappointing if I'm honest, considering how good that main event was. I did hope it could get as a C+. Again, a sign as I look at those numbers down the ratings column of not a very good show if we're honest. A decent promo at the start, but those middle ratings between 25 and upwards of 50 are really not good enough. Overall, I'm not impressed with the show. It's a bit of a risk we're taking next week, but a match that I'm really looking forward to booking. Homicide and Xavier one-on-one. The Hustle has imploded. That will be next week's main event, and I really hope that the two of them can deliver a good match.